Mintzies does it again. He just can't help himself. Part 1. Mintzies was given the floor at the meeting last week to lecture us about evidence and facts. An oxymoron, if ever there was one, having Mintzies' name in the same sentence as evidence and facts is laughable. He hadn't spoken in a while, he said, but it was time. Oh, Mintzies, you were doing so well when you kept your mouth shut. By the end of your 15 minutes of pontificating, you had both feet firmly planted in your mouth. Mintzies began with a response to a resident who questioned them about not providing documents.
And we took this meeting because I thought that perhaps if we presented this resident with evidence and facts and documents, it might clear up a whole bunch of misconceptions that this person had and had been spreading around. And we felt that maybe other people, if they heard this, would feel the same way. But it became apparent in the beginning that there were a lot of people who may feel this way. And no sooner had the meeting begun than the first question or statement came out. Why do you refuse to share information with residents and not allow residents to see documents and inspect them?
We are all ears. Let's hear all about clearing up misconceptions and why you refuse to share information.
Because we were able to show the resident the walls lined with boxes, file boxes, with literally thousands of files, documents, bank statements, various pieces of information.
And you're boasting about this? Anyone else would be dying of shame. Mintzies, in case you didn't notice, we are in the 21st century where keeping documents stuffed into boxes, lining the walls with them along the floor, is not something you should be boasting about. You see, Mintzies, there are these incredible things these days. They're called computers. They are able to file every one of your documents and are available at the click of a mouse. Fancy that! Since none of you can get your story straight when you are correcting misconceptions, please explain why you, Mr. Arnold, and President Railey often boast about your exemplary record-keeping of documents stuffed into boxes when Henry San Juan had this to say.
Yeah, our accounts payable system is the latest and greatest that Microsoft has to offer.
What is it, Mr. Mintzies? Are your documents stuffed into boxes as a ruse? Or are they on your computers using the latest and greatest Microsoft has to offer? Here's something you may want to consider. HB 1021 states, records must be maintained in an organized manner to facilitate inspection by a unit owner. Is this your version of orderly manner, where documents are dumped on the table and residents have to page through stacks of stuff they never asked for just to make it more difficult for them? Or is this all done at the instruction of your lawyer, Commissioner Bogan, who instructed Mr. Arnold on February the 26th last year in the now infamous email when he wrote, "Firstly, let me remind you not to provide any information when someone requests official records," and who can forget his last line? Again, I would not go out of my way to copy or mail any of these requests.
Some of the boxes labeled the resident's name, box 1 of 1, box 1 of 2, box 2 of 2, box 1 of 3, box 2 of 3. This is all stuff that had been requested by people and was there waiting for them to come in and see it. There was a pile sitting next to the resident about this high for someone who was coming in that afternoon to view documents. Now, this was available for people to see, for residents who've requested them and followed the rules to see.
Wow! Their names were written on the boxes with 1, 2, 3. Are you for real? How is it possible that you all landed up in charge of a $40 million operation? If this is the best you can do by keeping documents stuffed into boxes with 1, 2, 3, how the hell are you managing to look after 441 bank accounts? Where are those boxes? Which walls are those lined up against? That would be an interesting tour to take your residents on, don't you think? Mr. Mintzies, yes, the residents do follow the rules when they request documents. The issue is, do you? Which rules are you following when you break the rule to provide documents in an orderly manner or refuse to provide official records? Mr. Mintzies, you do love your rules when we are expected to follow them. But what about the rules you are supposed to follow? Rules like providing invoices, bank statements, insurance policies, the real ones, invoices for legal fees, just basic things that owners are entitled to if you followed the rules.
But you know something? You will be denied documents on occasion. Why? Because there are certain things you're not legally entitled to see.
Since you're talking about documents, what about the documents Mr. Arnold claimed he had to transfer to another medium before he printed them? Why would he need to do that, Mr. Mintzies? As a lawyer, don't you find it troubling? Here's a thought. If he's transferring them to another medium, how is he doing that if not with his computer? See? This is what happens when you don't tell the truth. You'll end up looking like a fool. Mr. Mintzies, here's another rule you have ignored. Why are you charging owners for official records when HB 1021 requires official records to be provided to the unit owner at no charge? How much have you charged the owners for official records? I'm quite sure you don't have a clue, but I suggest you find out very quickly and make sure you give them all their money back. And then he moved on to my favorite subject that sits right on the top of my list of hits, Hotwire.
We then moved on to the issue of Comcast and Hotwire. And why did you not allow Comcast to even bid on the new cable contract? That's what we were asked. Well, I knew where this came from. There had been a post on Facebook from someone some time back saying they had, quote, spoken to a woman at Comcast who told them they had been unable to bid. They weren't allowed to bid.
Imagine that. Comcast told the truth, and that unnerved him. Let me remind you what Alethea from Comcast's head office said about the bid. And I quote, "We were not selected to bid." Those were her exact words. But don't take my word or Comcast's word. Let's hear what Mintzies' evidence has to say.
Well, I recounted for the resident the meeting that we had. I remember it was in April 2023. I didn't remember the exact date. I checked afterwards. It was April 3rd, 2023, with 3 representatives from Comcast, and I could give you their names, came in and made a presentation, proposal, etc. for approximately 2 hours.
April 3rd. Can you explain then why Comcast's proposal, not a bid, was dated April the 27th? See? It's written right there. That's 3 weeks after you claimed you had this long meeting. Apart from the dates not lining up, where in the statute does it say, "Oh, don't bother providing the actual bids. It's quite all right to have a meeting with a select few to choose a multi-million-dollar contract, and make sure the select few are the same empty-headed nitwits who sit before you week after week and never question a single moronic thing you say." Did you invite Joe to any of these select few meetings? Of course not. He's a president and a council rep. Why wasn't he invited? Was it because he is far too smart and would have asked far too many questions that would have got all your knickers in a knot?
The president said, well, then why did you make the decision to go with Hotwire on your own without getting any input from the residents? Well, again, I probably bored this person to tears by recounting in detail how for the next 2 weeks or so, we met in small groups with directors, assistant directors, council reps, board members, presidents, etc., giving them a spreadsheet and going over every proposal we had gotten from the several companies that we had interviewed. We discussed them, we discussed everything about them, and after every single meeting, each group said the same thing. We should go with Hotwire.
In 2019, you engaged the services of a consultant company, All Systems Grow, who identified issues in Winmore that needed attention. The bidding process was one of them. They went so far as stating, there is a lack of trust, internal and external. This is a consultant company that you hired for $25,000 who told you there was a lack of trust. That's a pretty damning statement, wouldn't you say? It seems you didn't follow any of their recommendations because nowhere did they advise not to provide bids, only a comparable table that your consultant drew up, or that was one of the stories we were told. Your consultant, that was also a donor to Commissioner Railey's campaign, that she failed to disclose to the owners. Nowhere on their list of recommendations does it say, don't provide the bids, meet with small groups of people who don't understand a single thing, who don't read and cannot recognize a dupe when it smacks them in the face, and then claim they chose Hotwire. Mr. Mintzies, you claim to be a lawyer. What would a reasonable person conclude by this unadulterated bullshit?
I told again the resident how we spent weeks negotiating with Hotwire, hammering out the details of this agreement. I said, I've got a file this thick at home of all the things, all the changes, the red lines, the additions, the deletions, the amendments, before we finally hammered out the agreement.
What the hell were you spending weeks? By the way, you previously stated it was months, hammering out the details of the contract before you presented the bids to the council reps to vote. But then you never even presented the bids. Who the hell are any of you to make a unilateral decision to use Hotwire and ignore the bidding procedure? Only your trained seals bought the bullshit you fed them when justifying violating state statute. Since you boasted how hard you worked on this contract and indicated with your hands how big the pile of papers is at your home and boasted that you know cable companies, does this mean, Mr. Mintzies, you were paid? Is this why Hotwire wrote on their door fee agreement to reimburse WCC for their significant expenses to engage consultants and attorneys? Are you the plural in attorneys? Mark Bogan already admitted he was paid legal fees for when his retainer contract includes reviewing contracts. Were you paid too?
Well, Jackie signed the contract before the board voted on it. No, she didn't. Gave that person the minutes. Here's the minutes of the meeting, the council meeting, where the contract was approved by the council, where the contract was approved by the council. Did Jackie sign it after? Yes. And why was it signed the same day, June 1st? Because Hotwire said to us, the sooner you sign the contract, once it's approved, the sooner we can start construction. So we want to get it done immediately. And how do I know that it was signed? After, because there were witnesses, the signature was notarized, and there were witnesses when she signed the door fee agreement, which was after the contract was approved.
Mr. Mintzies, is this your attempt at gaslighting? Are you being deliberately obtuse by stating that President Railey signed the Hotwire contract on June 1? The issue is that she signed the door fee agreement on May 31, the day before she signed the Hotwire contract. That is the issue, but even you know that. Could this be the reason you hid the door fee agreement? It is no secret that I have zero respect for you, but after this, you are officially at the bottom of the food chain when it comes to ethics, morals, and integrity. As a lawyer, you should know better than anyone that evidence doesn't lie. Look at the evidence, Mr. Mintzies. This is the door fee agreement, the agreement you hid as part of the contract that you even confirmed that you hid it in an email blast. The date on the door fee agreement is May 31. President Railey signed it on May 31. There are no witnesses, nor was it notarized. The Hotwire contract is dated June 1. The witnesses signed it June 1. The minutes from the meeting has June 1. Watch the clip again. It defies belief that Mr. Mintzies lied so effortlessly.
There were witnesses when she signed the door fee agreement, which was after the contract was approved. And once again, how do we know? We were there.
You were there. Are you incapable of telling the truth? You are shameless. Evidence does not lie. Look at the door fee agreement. There were no witnesses. The door fee agreement only has President Railey's signature and Kristen Johnson, the Chief Executive Officer of Hotwire. You continuously insult our intelligence with your patronizing bullshit and then shout foul when you are caught, challenged and mocked because your gaslighting failed. Thank you for providing us with more evidence that nothing you say can be trusted, believed, or respected. Part 2 coming soon.